touch that track, it turns into gold. Everybody knows I got the magic in me.
Welcome to the Kill Your Pride podcast, a show about letting go of things that prevent you from reaching your dreams and being yourself unapologetically. My name is Danny. I'm here with my co-host,
KYP James.
and we have a special guest today, founder of Bao Magic and Bao Bao Restaurant.
Bow.
We had the mini episode where Bao talked about all of his journey to be where he is right now. And I think one thing we discussed about that we didn't go into detail is all of your efforts that you put into building the brand. Because unlike, let's say, photography or building a tech startup, there's not really a blueprint about being a professional magician.
Right.
You can't really Google or YouTube like, hey, how do I become a professional magician? And so I want this episode today to be about how to build a brand as a creative. And so three small topics that we're going to jump into is number one, what is considered a brand for a creative? Number two is why do people struggle building a brand and struggle with visibility? And number three is how to add value to your audience. And so let's jump directly into it. Bao, what do you think is the meaning of building a brand for yourself?
There's I guess two more obvious ways to build a brand. One is like a brand that is not you. In my case, I built the Bao Bao Restaurant or the Bao Bao playing cards. And then there's my brand, the personal brand, and who am I? How do I describe it? I mean, everything, like a brand really is how you want people to portray you or your company or whatever that you're building. And let's say for me, like, who is Bao Magic? Bao Magic is a magician. And then more recently, more focused on performing for corporate events, big events, high-end events, and now I've really developed this Bao Magic brand to be something that's catered for high-end events, so that customer service has to be top-notch. The service I offer has to be like the marketing material has to match that image. So everything from how people talk about you or your brand or about what you do, I guess it's about showing a level of consistency so that brand matches with what you want it to become and what you want it to be. I hope I feel like I was rambling a little bit, but in the end, a brand is you and what you want it to be, and for you to match that image that you want to portray.
I think Bao makes a very, very valid point about just the brand, the visibility. A lot of people are way too focused about, hey, like, what do I want my brand to be? And less about how do I want to be portrayed by other people, right? So if we take an example, the best example I always take is Apple. Like, people look at Apple as being, oh, it's a new tech company, the cool tech company. But what people don't know is that Apple, actually, their core message resonates with creatives. And what happened is that a lot of these creatives, these business owners, these people who are like obsessed with productivity, they ended up going to coffee shops. They're going on vacation. They're taking photos. They're in a place where they have a white laptop or a silver laptop with an Apple logo in the back. And so people relate the brand Apple as being the brand for the cool people. And so that was never really how Apple wanted to go about, but this is what the public perceived Apple to be. And so yes, you can put a lot of emphasis in the work of your brand, but at the end of the day, it's not about how much work you put in the brand, is how the public views you. And I know even for Jay, right? Like, can you talk about like how for Bao, if you didn't know, KYP used to be James' clothing brand,
I
and
remember
we
that.
converted it to the podcast. Like, Jay, can you talk about more like how you built the brand up?
Yeah, so a bit like you, Bao, it was definitely it was two things, right? It was the clothing line, and it was also about myself. So it was definitely intertwined between my social media persona and what I wanted the brand to become. And obviously, I was into fashion for many years, so that was definitely my niche. And I always wanted to start a brand, so I started the clothing line, because that's always something that I've always wanted to do. And Kill Your Pride, it's a statement. Too much of a statement that we reduced it down to 3 letters, to KYP,
Okay.
because Kill Your Pride, it has a deeper meaning. Sorry, it has a deeper meaning because it's about self-reflection. In the fashion world, in the fashion industry, it's run by pride. It's run by ego, status, money. And that's something that I couldn't relate from my background. Even though I loved it so much, I love clothes, I couldn't afford buying thousands of dollars in clothes every month just to impress on social media. So even though I loved it so much, I couldn't relate to it. I didn't come from a lot of money. You know, my parents are middle class family. You know, we work 12 hours a day. You know, we don't come from old money, you know? So and fashion, high-end fashion at least, comes from old money.
Right.
So I wanted to start a brand that could relate to the common people, like us, like myself. And I wanted to take out that ego out of fashion. So I wanted to make a clothing line that could be accessible for anybody. In regards to price points, in regards to the style. So streetwear is very accessible, right?
Yeah.
Unless you're talking about like high-end streetwear, but streetwear in its core, it's urban, it's from the streets,
Right.
it's from the people,
Yeah.
the common people. And that's how it started. And I did it for sorry, I'm rambling, but it did it for 2 years. And then I strayed away from that. And I was focusing more on work and school. And then I wanted to let the brand still be alive because I believed in it. I believe in Kill Your Pride.
Right.
And I think talking about the issues, talking about problems that we face every day, you know, as Asian kids or with our family, I think that is something that's to the core to the brand, to KYP. So that's how we became KYP Podcast.
Nice.
You know? So I think branding is very important, but you need to really, it has to be at the core to yourself. You have to believe in what you do.
You definitely need, you definitely need that thing that you believe in. You got to have your why that's going to drive you long term.
Exactly.
Right. So I definitely, I can definitely relate to that.
Yeah. So, I mean, how do you want to transition? Like,
Well, I mean, first things first, you know, like you mentioned about like being to the roots, being Asian. And I don't know if you remember, Bao, we had like a small talk conversation. And you mentioned that back in the days, you felt a bit uneasy having Bao Magic because you had like an Asian name within your brand. Like you could have named it anything else, but you took your name. How did you go about like going around and embracing Bao Magic instead of, let's say, like eclectic magic?
Well, I'm not sure how I can answer that because, like, in the end, it's me, right? It's who I am, and also I keep evolving, but in the end, Bao is me, and like until more recently, like it's always about like it's the magic of Bao, and also I guess this is like more of a like one of the side reasons. Like my first name is actually Bao An. And then I made it, I guess now I introduce myself as Bao. and I really want that bao to be like to stick in people's head, because so many times people mistake it for boa.
Yes.
So it's
What the fuck?
Yeah, like I know.
What? Boa and bao?
Like I remember there was one time I had a big performance
Yeah.
for a city. I won't say which city,
Okay.
but in all the pamphlets it said
No.
Boa and Hoang magician, and I'm like, bro, come on, it's like 3 letters. But anyway,
Gotcha.
so I think that really marked me, and
Yeah.
whenever I had baomagic.com, I made sure BAO is like in bold and in capital. It's not in lowercase, so that the A and the O is like easily mixed. So I really wanted to avoid that typo.
Yeah.
'Cause-
By the way, your name is easier to say in French as well, which is a huge plus because you're in the Quebec market.
right. Yeah.
And like my Korean name is Jahan. A lot of the French people say Jahan. So it's good that bao it's catchy in both
Yeah.
languages, by the way.
You'll often hear bao. as
Bao,
well.
yeah.
Okay.
bao.
Well, it's still good.
Yeah,
Still
but it's
better.
still
better than boa.
works. Yeah.
I mean, speaking of that too, like even on your business card, right? You have bao, but the bao is like massive, and then you just have the magic underneath, like
Gotcha.
written.
That was my old card, actually.
Oh, that was your old
that's
card.
Yeah, that was my old card, but I definitely made it a point. Like, it's bow,
I think
Bao.
I think you could take out the magic one day. Just bow.
just bow.
Yeah.
I mean, I know at least in the magic world,
Yeah.
I'm the prominent bow.
Yeah.
You're the only one.
You're
Like
do
there are other bao huangs out there.
Of course.
really?
Of
Yeah,
course.
but if you search bao magic, I'm the first bao that comes to mind. So
It's unique, man.
And I've shot with bao more than enough to hear people go like, bao. Oh yeah, it's like that Disney movie, right? That Pixar
Yeah.
short.
Oh
Yeah,
yes, well it's a
that's-
food as well, right? Let's
Yeah.
let's. I mean, I don't know if you want to talk about. Is that something to do with your cards, like bao restaurant?
one of them actually, another one was I was struggling to find the name of like my playing card company.
Yeah.
And then in the end, we just called it Bao Bao, because like one
Yeah.
is like my name is in it, but two, Bao Bao in Chinese is also baby. It's
Yeah.
cute, and then the logo is like two bao buns, so it's almost like Bao Bao.
Isn't bao a bun as well?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
the two buns,
Yo.
like the steam bun.
Yeah, Bao buns.
Exactly. Yeah. So restaurant it was perfect.
Yeah.
And so when it comes to branding, really, like, you know how people went with, let's say, like for me, right? I have Dapper _ cards. I don't know why I put the underscore, but for
You couldn't
you-
get without it, I guess.
I don't know,
Yeah.
but I know for you, you made it very apparent that it's just Bao Magic together,
Yeah.
and the name itself, right? Did you have to go through like multiple like iterations of the name, or did you just land on Bao Magic? You're like, this looks good, fuck it.
I mean, I don't think there was much thought because it was an Instagram handle that I've had like for a long
It's a
time.
logical handle, honestly.
Yeah, and it's simple, it's easy to remember. Bao Magic. My name is Bao. I do magic. Bao
Yep.
Magic, and I guess it just stuck until now. The only social media platform that I don't have exactly Bao Magic is on Twitter or X. Now it's Bao _ magic, and it's because I
gotta
haven't
buy
been
it.
active
Oh,
on Twitter
Gotcha.
for like a certain time that someone else took that name.
So they're trying for you to reach out and you have to buy it.
Well, actually, I've been trying to reach out for a long. I kind of gave up,
Okay.
but it's like some guy in China or Taiwan that's just like posting, but like, and they're like completely ignoring every time that I like reach out to them.
I've tried a bunch of times on James Lee
Uh-huh.
on Instagram.
Yeah,
That motherfucker doesn't want to move.
and they're still active. They're just reposting
they're active.
cat
Yeah, they don't want
videos.
they don't want to give their name.
Yeah. So on my end, the guys just keep reposting cat videos. I'm like, all right, I guess that's about magic on Twitter.
I think we can jump to the second topic, which is why do people struggle so much with building a brand, really? And I think, Bao, you're the perfect example because you've gone through so many different endeavors in life where you weren't sure what to do, and even your content kind of reflects it. You have a lot of trial and error. Like, what do you think is the main issue with why people struggle with visibility or even their own brand as creatives?
Well, we can start with with what to post as a creative, like it has to be something that's sustainable, because if you don't like what your message, or if you don't have a core, like I was saying earlier, your core why are you posting it?
Yep.
Then it's hard to stay consistent, right? The other one is like it's fine to experiment and to like stay on trend, and as long as it aligns with like your why, right? So like I've definitely like tried a lot of stuff, and a lot of my content has evolved because of trends, because of what I do at the time. So like let's say like during COVID, it was like a lot of just fooling around, because like I was just purely experimental, but also it felt just so freeing, because on TikTok for me it was like a completely different audience. I didn't have to.
It wasn't serious like
it
Instagram.
wasn't serious, and
Yeah.
I also didn't feel like I had to keep a certain image for like the people that already followed me.
Exactly.
And that it honestly was like the most freeing thing, being able to be like your full authentic self. Like I feel like I don't really show my silly side to like most people, but I definitely felt like myself, and like that silly side kind of like it started to shine through like all my TikTok videos, and like all my silly ideas. It'll be like no filter. I'll just like post it right away. It's just purely experimental, and it ended up doing pretty well.
Yeah.
And that led to like a lot of things. So, I mean, if I still get like silly ideas, like right now I'm just like really focusing on like building my magic business. But whenever like I would have like silly ideas, then I'll totally post it on TikTok without a problem.
And when it comes to, you mentioned that having something that's sustainable to post, I think that's one thing that I struggle a lot with, because my page started being all white, and then now it started to be all black. And so it's hard because like I need a specific type of lighting to shoot that content. And so I have to set up all the time with that. And the worst is not the fact that it's like, oh, his page is like black. That's cool. It's the fact that a lot of people recognized my page based on my pictures, where they're like, oh, you're the guy with that cool feed, all black feed. And I think similar to what Bao says is that if you overcomplicate your content and it becomes unsustainable, why are you creating content? You're just kind of going downhill.
You're putting yourself in the box.
Exactly. And in terms of putting yourself in a box, right? Have you ever had a moment where you thought of trying different types of content, or you felt like imprisoned within, like, I only need to do magic content?
Yeah, definitely. I remember, especially on Instagram, like there would be a certain like time limit or certain types of content. And I would try to post, let's say like new visual magic. And also I didn't think that when you're growing an audience, you don't think that like I would keep thinking of my old audience, like, oh, they've already seen this, so I can't do this again. But one thing about growing is that if you're growing at a fast rate, or if you want to create content to promote growth, like you have to create as if 90%, let's say 90% of your audience is like completely brand new and they have no clue who you are.
Gotcha.
So I would say it would be okay to like keep doing the same thing over and over, maybe in different variations, and it's fine to repost too, because you got to keep in mind that like, yes, you want to cater to like your current audience, but you also, you don't have to be afraid of like just doing the same thing again, or just doing the same version of the same thing again.
Some people haven't seen that content that
Exactly.
could still give value or still have, potential, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And coming from content that is like repeating content, do you feel sometimes, I know I've worked with Bao
A long time.
a long time to know that Bao has a repertoire of illusions that he performs. Do you ever feel, let's say, that your repertoire sometimes limits you in the type of content you can do? Because a lot of creators, a lot of people who do mentalism, let's say mentalism, Bao, if you can explain to the audience.
Yeah, mentalism would be psychological illusions where I make you feel like I can read your mind or predict the future.
Yo, you're good at that, by the way.
Thank you.
You could read what's my code on my phone, right? Is that's mentalism?
Not on record. Yeah, I can do that.
Gotcha.
So when it comes to mentalism, a lot of content creators just post the same type of content because they got a good reaction with the first content, and now they're recycling that content continuously. Like, how do you get around that sort of content burnout or that attention burnout of constantly posting something that you're really good at, but you're not sure if you want to post it anymore?
I feel like I don't think I have reached that burnout point yet. Maybe I will, but I still look at it from a perspective where there's still a lot to grow. Like my audience still has a lot. There's still a lot of room for me to grow an audience. And let's say like on Instagram at 20K now, but let's say like if I were to want to reach 100K, like that's 5 times more that. Yeah, that's that. So I definitely don't think that I need to limit myself, or I don't think that I have to be afraid of like keeping posting the same type of content. Maybe tweak or add different contexts, but it's okay to like keep doing that. And then in the meantime, I'll also keep an eye out for what's the next thing, or how to vary it also for myself, because I still want to enjoy posting stuff. Like Danny, like if you guys didn't know, Danny also attends all my events, shooting and capturing content. And he's definitely seen the same tricks over and over and over again. But at the same time, I perform that to a new audience every time. So it's okay for me to keep doing that. So I guess in a way, like the same psychology applies, but also to keep it interesting for me. Every now and then I'll be like, hey, Danny, I'm like trying this new thing. Might be a little rusty, but I want to see how it goes. And then at some point that new thing might end up in my repertoire, and then I just keep improving it, or either it stays or it goes away. So I guess for myself, to keep it interesting, I like to try new stuff. And more recently, I've been able to invest in new magic, so I can have I can do that now.
By the way, you don't have to go too far, because every time I look at the same trick, I'm still amazed on how you freaking did it. Like, you could show me, I think you showed me the same trick twice, and I still don't know how you did it.
Was it like with the phone?
It's with the phone. It's with the card. I don't know how you like. You could show it to me 5 times, 10 times, and I'll be like, "Yo, how did you do that?" As long as you don't explain it to me, so keep the magic there.
Yeah,
I like that. I don't know how you did it.
Yeah, and it's interesting because like one thing that magicians would say is that we're like guardians of an empty chest.
yes,
right?
pretty much.
So it's so like cool. Once you know the secret, it might not be as interesting anymore.
Yeah.
On my end, like I like to remember how like the impact that this trick has to other people. And if I keep reminding myself of like, okay, like this snapshot of like this reaction is what I can create, and what it's a moment, it's an experience I can share for everyone.
Yeah.
Then like the secret might not be as impressive for me, but I still have a lot of fun being able to share that experience.
It fulfills you.
Yes.
Yeah.
100%.
Like other people's reactions.
Yeah.
Honestly, yo, that's a why too, right?
That's yeah.
Yeah.
It's
having a good time.
Yeah, having a good time and being able to share wonder. That's what it is.
Nice.
And as a magician, I don't know if you can go into the concept of like creating content and flashing during your content. Do you want to kind of talk about like how do you go about like not to flash like any of your illusion on your content? And can you explain what is flashing?
Yeah, what is flashing?
Yeah, flashing. So it's not exposing yourself, but it's exposing like the tricks.
Okay.
So let's say like I do a trick to the camera, but it catches like a bad angle that would like expose the trick. So that would be defined as a flash.
Okay.
So let's say like like I'm trying to hide a card, but then you kind of see the card kind of peeking through my fingers.
I'm behind you,
exactly.
Yeah.
So that would be considered a flash, especially the camera. But it's fairly simple. I would say I always review my footage because I know how nitpicky people can get, and also like over the years of like performing for the camera or having a camera in the vicinity. I guess it does eventually become second nature, where like you're also aware that the camera is also another set of eyes, or when you're performing for the camera, then it's normal for me to check the footage again and like having to perform it again and again and again.
By the way, you did videography and photography for a long time as well,
Yes.
no?
Yeah.
So you kind of know how it works as well on the other side.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And when it comes to also building your brand, right? You know, a lot of people struggles because they're so focused within their art. What helped you really move away from, let's say, magic and really focus on the business side?
Interesting.
So, I mean, the magic, I would say that the magic that I've been doing, just because I had a day job, it's been pretty similar throughout the years. I've been doing the same thing over and over. It just became that like the same tricks. I would say I've gone to a level of like very close to mastering them. Like like if you were, just like I was telling you, I have a gig that for tomorrow, and I just got the call today.
Yeah.
Like I'm cool with it.
Easy work.
I'm cool with it because it's just
did a million times.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So like the only thing I'm stressed about is probably like, oh, like is
Logistics,
my suit there? Did I need to steam my stuff? But other than that, like it's more logistics rather than like the performance itself. So I don't really have to worry about that. So it definitely gave me a lot of time to focus on the business side of things.
Other things. Yeah.
So I definitely, the magic, it's kind of took in a back seat. Now that I'm full time, I do explore on like improving some magic, but I would say most of my time is definitely focused on building a sustainable business and like having like sustainable cash flow, lead flow, and everything. So the balance is not that hard. It's more because the magic side of things, like I've definitely done it for a long time. So I'm okay.
There's no costs, right? Like barely any costs.
It depends.
Depends.
Like you could definitely, like I can do an entire performance with just a deck of cards.
Wow. Okay.
Like I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
I could if you were
do
to
that.
like if that were to be a challenge, I'll be able to do it. But I still enjoy being able to do more, like adding new stuff to like just it's more fun for me and the audience.
Of course.
And like the way that you learn magic is you do buy magic, let's say from books, from DVDs, from other magicians. Sometimes you buy rights to perform a certain act.
Oh, crazy. Yeah.
And then you also buy secrets. Like some secrets, like it's in order for it to be more exclusive, they're just more expensive. So only the professionals it would only make sense for the professionals to buy that secret in order to perform it. So there's an entire...
It's another world. It's Harry Potter, bro.
World. Yeah. So yeah, there are magic dealers and you can buy magic, you can sell magic. Yeah, that's a thing.
You just meet someone in a dark alleyway with a trench coat.
That's exactly what I'm thinking right now.
Yo, you want to see magic?
Diagon Alley in Harry Potter.
So I think one last point before we jump into the third point is when it comes to building a brand, right? I find that your brand extremely slick, really nice, but a lot of photographers, or let's say a lot of painters, creatives in this world, they just know their craft. They just know how to sing, they just know how to take pictures. But you need to embrace the entirety of the creative world, like graphic design, website design. You need to learn how to do video photography and things like that. Like, how did you learn all these things really to build your own brand?
I mean, throughout the years, I kind of had to, like I started at 15, so no budget anywhere. Like I did explore hiring a web designer, but it ended up being, I mean, at $1,000 at the time was like a lot, right?
Yeah.
Like now it makes sense for me to pay $1,000 for a web designer, but at the time I was like, okay, like I don't have the money for that, so I have to learn everything by myself. I had to bootstrap everything. I had to learn how to take photos, edit videos. I had to learn how to build the website. I had to learn how to like do social media and everything. So everything kind of, just because in my position at the time, I kind of had to learn everything on my own, because if you can't pay it with money, then you pay it with time by learning and doing all that. So in a way, like I wanted to build a business. I wanted to be out there as a creative, as a performer. So in order to get there, I had to, either pay for it or do it myself. So I ended up learning everything.
Well, you have to, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You didn't give yourself a choice. You had YouTube and you had a deck of cards, or you had other things, right?
Yeah.
But I think also what helped is with the recent advancement in technology, you have a lot of things that makes it a lot easier to build your website. Like all these website builders,
Of course, yeah.
graphic
Everything is so
designs,
accessible.
everything's so accessible.
Yeah.
And I think jumping to our final point is how do we add value to your audience? I think that is one thing a lot of people struggle with. Let's say as a photographer, me, a lot of people just think like, hey, I'm gonna just post the photos that I shot today and like call it a day and just stay back and wait for the calls to ring me up and like, hey, we need a photographer. So let's say for you having a YouTube channel of like almost 164K, if I remember the number correctly.
Yeah, something like in the 160s. Yeah.
Yeah. And then for your Instagram and TikTok and all of that, like how did you gain that following? Did you just post your magic content or did you move towards more educational content?
Yeah, so for YouTube, when I restarted my YouTube more seriously, it was a lot of magic tutorials. So there's a why behind it, and that why is I wanted to create what 12-year-old Bao wished he had. Right? When I started magic on YouTube and learning it from YouTube, there was a lot of like, it was kind of all over the place. I didn't know like where to start, and the tutorials weren't like all the best quality stuff out there, like stuff shot on webcam, or a lot of stuff. It was like, oh, rather than like the purpose of teaching it to you, it's like, oh, magic exposed. And like, you know, so like it wasn't like the purpose wasn't to teach. So I did learn stuff through that, but I think it would have been a lot easier if there was like one place where I could learn everything, all the basic, all the foundation, and that is what I wanted to create for young Bao. So I started the YouTube channel, and it started with a lot of foundational material, like how to shuffle cards, or how to do a certain thing, how to make a card disappear, how to
Like fundamentals. Fundamentals of
fundamentals.
Like, okay,
Yeah,
gotcha.
a lot of fundamentals, and at the same time, my thought process was yes, like one is like that was my why, but two, if I wanted to create an audience, I had to create content that people would care. Right? They needed to care about it, and I when you first start, you can't be too selfish. You can't just expect people to see what you do and love it. Let's say I knew I wanted to make vlogs, but I can't start vlogs and expect people to watch and care about me.
Right.
Yeah.
Because like at that starting point, I'm a nobody pretty much. So how I gave value was by teaching the stuff that I wish I had, teaching the fundamentals. And the goal was I wasn't teaching like anything crazy that like magicians would start with coming at me with their pitchforks.
They do that, eh?
It happens.
Gotcha.
And sometimes like rightfully so, like sometimes people like they expose like stuff like without consent or like with like it's always about the intent. That's what I feel.
Okay.
So my intent is really to spark enough curiosity for the future generation of magicians to, okay, like this is cool. Let's dig deeper. And there's a lot of resources where you can dig deeper and learn magic from like the right sources, like from books or DVDs and whatnot. It's weird. I learned from DVDs, so it's weird kind of.
Yeah, I was like, when you said DVDs, like, yo, you're from that era,
yeah,
eh?
I
That 90s
like magic
era.
DVDs was a thing, or magic downloads nowadays. Yeah. Like the goal is really to spark enough curiosity, and whatever I teach is broad enough and public, like open source, not open source, but like public domain.
Public domain knowledge
Exactly.
/ knowledge.
So yeah, that's
This is how you built your brand.
Yeah.
Initially.
like on YouTube. That's how I built it, and then over the time, then I start to do more content that would be, let's say, like I did some vlogs. I also did some reaction videos, because at that stage, then like people they like my content. They want to see more of Bao and not just like the educational content.
Like viral content sometimes.
Viral content is how I exploded on YouTube was through a video teaching a back palm. If I were to create a video, like a back palm is like when you make a card appear from your hands. Your hands are empty. You make a card appear.
You have a card right now?
I
You have a
do
card with
actually.
you?
I do actually.
We can do a little pause for you to grab your deck.
So you can make a card disappear and make it reappear like this. I hope it looks good.
Yeah.
Like that. So that's the back palm, essentially. You make
Okay.
a card like the idea is you have your hands empty and then you make it appear. My hands are a little slippery right now.
You got a lot of muscles in there to do that.
Oh yeah, it's a lot of handling cards over the years. But
Wow.
definitely the first thing that people struggle with is like just
The grip.
and like bending the card like that, right? Like that's what it is. And like that. So if I were to teach that alone, like maybe people that have some interest in magic might watch it. But how I guess expanded that audience is by incorporating it with what was relevant at the time. So at the time in WandaVision, there was a new episode, and then Jimmy Woo, one of the characters, he made a business card appear in that manner. And then people were freaking out because they saw that it was an Easter egg that was
Ant-Man?
linked to Ant-Man.
Yeah.
Because
Ant-Man, yeah.
he was in Ant-Man, he was trying to learn magic, and it wasn't always successful, but in WandaVision, when he did it, it was like a proof. It showed people that he finally succeeded in learning that trick.
Yeah.
So I guess I wanted to point out that link and that little Easter egg.
Yeah.
And at the same time, through that, I taught how to do a back palm. So not a lot of people that watched that video really had the intent of learning a magic trick, or like they didn't think of that they wanted to learn magic. But because it was trending, it was relevant at the time, that definitely got more people to maybe start learning magic, or maybe that sparked
It
some
inspired them.
curiosity.
Yeah.
So and that got a lot of traction, and that built my audience today. So that was definitely the start of like
Wow.
relevant content, and that video I even started that video with the thumbnail and the title first before actually shooting that video.
Like a Mr. Beast style.
Pretty much.
Like
yeah.
Jimmy Woo. Yeah, Jimmy Woo on it.
Yeah, I had the Jimmy Woo's face. I had Paul Rudd's face.
Yo.
Ant-Man. Yeah.
And
yeah,
I
you had
mean,
the formula.
and I mean, even in terms of, when we talk about creating content, right? That's just adding value to your audience online. But being your personal videographer / photographer, you also add a lot of value when it comes to your performance in person. One big example I had was when you were performing for this couple at a ceremony, right? He pulled out the first time I saw this illusion where, Bao, if you can explain it.
Yeah, so essentially, I asked the groom to pick one card and the bride to pick one card. They both signed the card, and then we put the cards back in the decks to mix them up. And I asked there was a story behind it, and I asked the groom to think of his wife.
Okay.
And then his wife's card appeared face up in the deck.
Okay.
And then same thing, I turned it back face down. I gave it to the wife, and then she made. I asked her to think of her husband, and then the husband's card turned face down.
You didn't mix it at all?
It wasn't like it was mixed in the deck, and then
Okay.
it was given in their hands, and
Gotcha.
then that card ended up being face up again. And then now that both cards end up being face up, I showed that it's like they found each other. But then in the end, and then I showed that both cards are next to each other. I put both cards in both their hands, so they both had two cards in their hand.
Yeah.
And I told them that today, because it's their wedding day, today they've become one. And then when I asked them to open their hands, it's no longer two cards. It's actually one card. One side is the husband's card, and then the other side is the wife's card, both with their signatures.
One card?
It's one card. So like they can try to peel it. They wouldn't be able to. It became one. It literally became one.
That is crazy.
So I think basically when it comes to being a creative is not
Yeah.
only adding value to your audience, but adding value to your client. And I think that's what a lot of people don't realize is that
Yeah.
you have to cater to people, right? You don't just show up to, let's say, someone's wedding. You could perform like all your stuff. You can take all the pictures, all the videos, and then just walk away.
Yeah.
But if you go the extra step to catering your content or your performance or your art to your client,
Yeah.
it goes an extra way. And like Bao, how did you come about thinking about adapting a lot of your illusions to your clientele?
Interesting.
Yeah. Well, I knew that they only had because they had to leave earlier than the guests for photos. So I knew that I only had like a small window to perform for them. So I had to think, okay, like what should I perform that would be relevant to them? And then after doing some research, I found that that was one of the best tricks to perform, especially in that context. And then when it came to performing, it turns out they had even less time. So that one trick ended up to be the perfect trick, the perfect.
That was the one
act
trick
for
you
them.
did for them?
Exactly.
Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So they had to run, but like if I
It
had
was
one thing
so
to show,
meaningful.
I had to do it. I have to do this.
Yeah, it made so much sense. Like,
So there's a lot of research involved when
Yeah.
it comes to like perfecting your act, when it comes to your clientele and your audience, right?
Definitely.
and
yeah.
he adapted to the situation because that was like pre-rushed, right? You had to really find a cue on when to show that trick.
And I think that's what makes up good performers from a
Yeah.
great performer. Let's say I've had experience with you when someone comes up to you and is like, hey, pick a card. And then you start counting the cards. Like, is that the thing where you count like 21 cards? He's like, hey, I'll show you a better trick. And then he just went on and he showed a trick to like the little kid. Because the like, little kid didn't know any better, right?
Yeah.
So Bao just went on to show him like a better trick. And the kid was like mind blown. And then that's where he said, hey, if you want to learn more, go on my YouTube channel. And it kind of leads one to another. Whoops, sorry.
Yeah, and yeah, he was 11 years old, and that was like about I was 12 when I started, so
That was around your age.
yeah. So he was genuinely curious. So I was like, hey, you know what? If you want to learn, like you can learn it there. I can't teach you everything right now because you want to learn, but like I also have like an entire room to like entertain. But
You sparked the curiosity though.
yeah, it definitely sparked the curiosity. So like, you know what? If you want to learn, there's a place to start. And then at this time, I'll be done with my set. I'll teach you something extra as well.
Wow, you even kept him going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like the kid is just following Bao all night long, trying to look and trying to figure out everything. But, you know, you can't fault him. It's the curiosity, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And as a kid, you don't mean to heckle people. You're so curious. That's what you want.
Yeah.
And that's what you do.
Yeah.
And I think finally, Bao, one big question to you, right, is really, what do you think is the most important thing when it comes to building a brand, really?
Definitely think of it from an outside perspective, from the audience's perspective, right? We're in a world where people are competing for attention. And if you only think for yourself, if you only think that, okay, this is what I want to show, but you also have to think of the extra step of like, what can I do to make them care about what I do? Right. So you definitely have to think of, like, let's say on Instagram, like people are just there to keep scrolling and be entertained. What's going to make them stop scrolling? Right. So definitely think of it from an outside perspective, understand your platform and how people behave there. Like you can definitely have your message that you want to give to the world, but you have to understand what's the best way to get them to care about what you do by giving value and by catering to your audience. And that, I guess, through everything that we talked about, it kind of, that's what I do in everything that I do. Like
Wow.
content and magic and everything.
You inspired me.
Thank you.
And thank you so much, Bao, for being on the podcast today. Where can we find you?
You can find me at Bao Magic on every social media platform except for Twitter. Or you can just search Bao Bao playing cards and Bao Bao restaurant.
Do you have any upcoming projects that you'd like to talk about, promote, or?
You heard it here first. Peach Soju playing cards are releasing soon. in the next coming weeks.
Nice.
Perfect. And so, my name is Danny. I'm here with my co-host
KYP James.
and our
Wow.
special guest.
Bow.
And remember,
The KYP.
kill your pride.